Magneto's greatest power is not magnetism. It is Auschwitz. Not because he was born there, not because he died there, but because he never truly left. Every war he fought, every human he feared, every mutant he tried to protect, all of it began behind a fence in 1944. People imagine Magneto as a supervillain, a terrorist, a mutant supremacist. But those labels miss the point. The most important thing about Erik Lehnsherr is not what he became. It is what he witnessed. Because long before he controlled metal, he witnessed humanity. And humanity terrified him. Before the helmet, before Charles Xavier, there was only a Jewish boy watching one of the most advanced civilizations in history transform itself into an industrial killing machine. That is what Auschwitz really was. Not chaos. A system. Organized. Efficient. Engineered. A machine built to turn human beings into statistics. Trains arrived on schedule. Records were maintained. Quotas were met. Inside that machinery stood Erik. Watching. Learning. Surviving. Marvel's times. Magneto. Testament times. Strips away the powers. What remains is history. History capable of permanently reshaping a human mind. Erik witnessed death transformed into administration. Murder transformed into logistics. Extermination transformed into procedure. The guards did not look like monsters. They looked ordinary. They followed orders, performed their duties, then returned home. The camp taught Erik something he would never forget. The people who destroy the world rarely believe they are evil. They believe they are necessary. That realization poisoned everything that came after. Most survivors left the war hoping humanity would learn. Erik left believing humanity never would. Because from his perspective, the Holocaust was not an accident. It was a demonstration. Proof that civilization could declare certain people dangerous, and then build an entire system dedicated to removing them. That idea became the foundation of Magneto. Years later, when the world began fearing mutants, Erik did not see prejudice. He saw history repeating itself. Different language, same mechanism, the same fear, the same desire to isolate the different, to register them, control them, eventually eliminate them. Charles Xavier still believed humanity could change. Magneto did not. Because Charles studied people, Erik studied history. History had already delivered its verdict. The war ended. The gates opened. The survivors walked away. But inside Erik Lehnsherr, something remained trapped behind the wire. Something that would spend the rest of its life preparing for the next train, the next registry, the next extermination, the next Auschwitz. And that fear would eventually transform a frightened survivor into one of the most dangerous men on Earth. When the war ended, Erik Lehnsherr did not find peace. He found unfinished business. Across Europe, many of the men who had designed the machinery of Auschwitz simply disappeared. SS officers, camp administrators, collaborators, engineers of death. Some escaped. Some built new lives. Some convinced themselves that history had moved on. Erik refused to. Because some crimes do not expire. While most survivors tried to rebuild, Erik went hunting. Not out of blind revenge, but because he had stopped believing justice would arrive on its own. His war became quiet, methodical, clinical. He followed records, rumors, paper trails. The same bureaucracy that had once condemned millions now led him back to the men who had created it. One by one, they vanished. This was the moment Magneto truly began to exist. Not in Auschwitz, But afterward, because survival taught Erik what humanity could become, vengeance taught him what he could become. Every man he found reinforced the same conclusion. Courts failed. Governments failed. Institutions failed. History failed. Only force produced results. Only fear created consequences. Only power protected the vulnerable. That belief hardened inside him. Slowly, permanently, the frightened boy behind the fence began to disappear. A colder man took his place. A man who no longer believed in trust. A man who no longer believed in systems. A man who believed safety could exist only through strength. Then his mutation fully awakened. For most people, it looked like a miracle. For Erik, it felt like insurance. Magnetism was never a spectacle. It was certainty. The certainty that no one would ever drag him onto another train. Human civilization is built from metal. Its weapons, its factories, its railways, its armies, its cities. Everything depended on steel. And Erik could command all of it. For the first time in his life, he possessed something Auschwitz could never take away. Power. The kind that could not be confiscated. The kind that could not be registered. The kind that could not be marched into a camp. And once Erik experienced that feeling, he could never live without it again. Not because power made him happy, because power made him feel safe. That distinction would define the rest of his life. From that moment forward, every decision he made, every battle he fought, every line he crossed, was driven by a single conviction. If the world respected only power, then power would become the only language he would ever speak. The tragedy of Magneto is not that he became a monster. The tragedy is that he became understandable. Then came Charles Xavier, a man who witnessed the same world and reached the opposite conclusion. Charles believed humanity could change. Erik believed history never would. Neither man wanted another Auschwitz. They disagreed on only one question. Could fear ever stop creating itself? That question defined the rest of their lives. Because trauma had become something larger than memory. It had become ideology. Not all at once. Slowly. Until the wound itself began making decisions. Magneto wanted only one thing. To ensure that no mutant would ever stand where he once stood. But somewhere along the way, protection became domination. Security became control. Survival became power. Without realizing it, he began organizing the world through the same logic he had once survived. Not with the same hatred, but with the same structure. Mutant, human, friend, threat. The same belief that fear could create safety. The same belief that enough power could prevent history from repeating itself. That is why Magneto remains one of fiction's most unsettling characters. He did not become dangerous despite his trauma. He became dangerous because of it. Every decision he made was meant to prevent another genocide. Yet every victory pushed him closer to the very system he had spent his life resisting. The camp disappeared. Its logic did not. It survived inside him. That was the prison he could never escape. Magneto spent his entire life preparing for disasters that had not yet happened. Another registry. Another train. Another extermination. Another Auschwitz. Peace was never what he was searching for. Safety was. But trauma never allows anyone to feel completely safe. There is always another enemy. Another possibility. Another catastrophe waiting somewhere beyond the horizon. And so he kept preparing. Always watching. Always remembering. In the end, Erik Lehnsherr escaped Auschwitz. But Auschwitz never escaped him. The fences vanished. The gates opened. History moved forward, yet a part of him remained behind, forever waiting for the next train. Perhaps that was Magneto's true mutation. Not magnetism, memory. A memory so heavy that even a man who could move the earth itself could never escape its gravity.